Joining us tonight, Congressman Randy Forbes, member of the Judiciary Committee, also a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Good to have you with us, Congressman.
Thanks, Lou.
Your reaction to King Abdullah, in ordering the execution by hanging of two al-Qaeda terrorists, acted boldly and immediately upon the murder of Jordan's pilot.
Well, Lou, as you mentioned, I met with the King yesterday, shortly after this video came out, and I think more important than the execution that we heard about today taking place, I think one of the things that was very impressive is that the King had, as you just mentioned, a well-articulated strategy. You could tell that he had thought this out. He looked at it militarily. He looked at it with other components. And it's not a short-term strategy. It's not something that he says he's going to be committed to for a short period of time. It's both a short-term and long-term strategy. And particularly, Lou, he mentioned the fact that this was a generational fight and something that should unite Muslims, Christians, and Jews together to fight against this kind of extremism that we're currently seeing.
You know, I understand the thinking there, and particularly on the part of the Republican Party when it comes to fighting the Islamic State and the reticence, if not the abdication, of the Obama administration in carrying out that fight decisively. But when I hear generational fights, I'm not certain that that is the kind of fight the United States is by nature, by heritage, equipped to carry out. Ours is overwhelming military force. Ours, as you well know, is overwhelming military power and superior technology. Why in the world would we not use that and insist on as quick as possible decisive defeats? Because I, for one, Congressman, can't imagine a David Petraeus saying to a Douglas MacArthur, I've got a great plan for a long war, and the next thing, that becomes doctrine.
Well, Lou, let's go back to 2009, 2010, where we basically had them defeated. And all their military experts were telling them that this president followed the direction he was going, that this was going to happen. So this didn't surprise any of our military experts. You hit the nail on the head when you talked about this is a president that really tries to have his foreign policy based upon crisis, as opposed to having any kind of strategy that he can articulate and stick to. You know, I'm chairman of the Seapower and Projection Forces Subcommittee. I spend all day in briefings studying where our military is around the globe. I can tell you, I do not know what their strategy is. If you came and walked with me in the halls of Congress today, you couldn't find that strategy. And unfortunately, our allies don't know that strategy. That's the big component that we're missing right now, a strategic plan of how we're going to fight ISIS.
Let me ask you this. As we look at Ashton Carter, the president's nominee to be the next Secretary of Defense, saying point blank that he can guarantee you he won't be accelerating any detainees removal or the shutdown of Guantanamo. Where are we headed with that nomination? I mean, that kind of dispute with the commander-in-chief sounds like he's going to get fired before he can get confirmed.
Well, Lou, this administration has had a record of firing anybody that disagrees with him, but one of the things that I can tell you about Mr. Carter is he's in good company, because I do not know of a time in history when you find two previous Secretary of Defenses appointed by an administration that would come out during that administration and say they disagree with the course of action that this president has taken. And at the same time, when you'll hear the military leaders come out and say they're not listening to him. The big problem we have now, and that Mr. Carter is going to face, is that we no longer have the Department of Defense running our national defense. They've let the National Security Council do that. And until we change that, we're going to continue to have major problems with national security that we see unraveling with this administration around the globe.
Congressman Randy Forbes, always good to talk with you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Lou.